When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Rectable. The Brainstorm
where we wreck a table
where we spend
by
some
talking
time
and derailing
discussing,
things.
Yeah, one topic or many, depending on the way the conversation flows. This is an open brainstorming session where I kick things off with some thoughts, and we see where things go from there. I'm Cory, and I'm still joined by Rene. Hello. Brandon.
Yeah, hello.
Lisa.
Hi.
Angela.
Hello.
And the always amazing Dave. Hi. And we are
nobody else did it, so I had
we didn't get a proper Angela introduction.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
And we are in Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is still May 11th, 2018.
Studio A,
oh,
right?
Shit. It's my dad's birthday.
This is Studio A.
Quick! Can we hit pause? Can we hit pause so you can call him?
Cory has to go get a birthday
No, you have to
present.
call him on the podcast.
On the podcast.
On the air.
That's all right.
Let's do it. Let's
come
straighten
on.
in.
Let's do it.
Do it.
Speaker.
Do it. Do it.
My dad doesn't know how to use Skype.
I'll sing
okay.
happy
He has a
birthday to
phone,
him
doesn't he?
in my sexiest Marilyn Monroe impression.
Do it.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. Mo.
No,
Do it,
that's
Angela.
okay.
I was
I'll text him tomorrow. Also, remember, it's Mother's Day on Sunday.
It's what now?
It's Mother's Day on Sunday.
Is it?
Yes.
Fuck
That I
Mother's
know.
Day. I'm so over Mother's Day.
Are you
Why?
seriously?
Yep.
Why?
It's how much time do you have?
Well,
Okay,
as
wait,
much
let's
time
not.
as you want. I'm curious about
For real?
Yeah,
We've got queued up about roughly, 45 minutes an hour?
yeah. We got a half hour for sure.
Is
Do
that
it,
enough?
Angela.
That's lots.
Let's hear it.
The reason that I hate Mother's Day is approximately 11 years ago, I met a guy who had 2 kids. And I was really excited about being in their lives and stuff. And it didn't occur to me initially that I was going to be their quote unquote stepmom when we got together. It was just, I hadn't thought about that in relation to my relationship with my now husband. And when I think it didn't hit home for me until I had a child of my own. But one thing that kind of was frustrating to me is that when I became a stepmom, there was no person to be like, here's a lasagna, or let's go for drinks.
Right.
Or, it was just like you knew you were getting into right away. Like, why are you complaining? This guy, you knew you're getting into, he has kids. So what? Suck it up. But as soon as I had my child, who is now 6, there was fucking baby showers, and there was cards and gifts and
Support.
And people coming to hang out with me and stuff like that. And it just, for me, ever since I've kind of eschewed the whole idea of Mother's Day, because it's bullshit. Because I'm a mom, and I think being a stepmom is potentially harder. There's more feelings and more awkwardness and more discomfort, I think, to navigate when you have a child of your own, that whether you adopted or became guardian of, it's clear that you are responsible for the needs of that child. But when you have a stepmom situation, it's slightly different. It's mostly...
Your authority isn't quite the same. You don't have the final say. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily. It's really dependent on what the biological parent allows and encourages. I think if I'm really lucky to have somebody who is really supportive of my role and we communicate well. I mean, we've fought really hard to get to where we are. It took a long time, but we're in a place now where we are on the same page, and I essentially let him handle it. And I'm like a fun aunt, pretty much, because I've had to like set myself away from that emotional investment of being a step parent. And I think, I mean, I love my child to like, it's a given. I love my child a lot, and I know what my responsibility is towards her, but I don't know. It just seems so trite and so trivial that we celebrate moms the way that we, and it's just so like, it's so lavish, like brunching and flowers and, you know, like Facebook posts, like, and memes.
For those of you at home, there was a
gagged.
nonverbal wretch there.
It's just like, it's nauseating to deal with it. It just seems like, and even for the people that choose not to have kids, that are childless, like the people who just don't want to have kids, it's frustrating for them too. Like whether by choice they have no children, or the person they're with doesn't want to have kids, or is finished having kids. I mean, there's those things to navigate too. And with Mother's Day, it just seems to like bring it to the forefront.
Yeah.
Like the people, oh, you were lucky enough to have a kid, or you accidentally had a kid, so here we are. You know, it just, I'm over it. I just want a fucking day off and maybe bacon.
I have
That's all I care about.
a minor counterpoint, only that I agree that it's too. I would think that people do go too far for it. However, I would think that it shouldn't be just like mom. I figure it could be mom figure. I figure stepmoms could be included.
Well, it's they could. I mean, it's not that simple. I think it would be nice. I think in the States, their Stepmom's Day is the Sunday after Mother's Day. So technically,
it's like an afterthought,
right?
That's exactly what it is. That is actually what
her
it
day
is right
next
there.
week. The carnations are going to be shriveled dead by then.
You know, stepmoms, that's a really hard role, right? Because that's not predefined by society as to what a good stepmom should be. And there's no, every family is going to have a different role for that stepmom and different boundaries. But you know, stepmoms are still dropping off at school and making lunches and driving
and they
kids
get
to
no
practice.
thanks for it. I mean,
well, sometimes moms don't either. So to be clear, like, I mean, I'm a single mom, and I mean, I don't get a lot of. I mean, you people go over the top for Mother's Day. I'm like, nobody going over the top for Mother's Day for me. I don't know what you're talking about. My kid brought me home a wilted pansy, and I'm like, that's cool, and that's going to be it. Like, I mean,
I got a sweet poem with
I could
fingerprints.
buy brunch, I guess, but they're make it, but that's it. Like, that's it.
I'll buy your brunch.
Okay, cool.
I do
Totally do that.
find it, because obviously I have a blended family too, where and Stephanie at times has conflict about what to do and how to parent, and like she's quite
so hard.
Yeah, like it's not an
tricky.
easy thing.
No.
And to feel like an outsider, and as well as trying to find the right limits of where your parenting power is, and like parenting isn't easy.
Nope.
But then to be someone who may not have ever had kids on their own, to be suddenly in this situation with other people's kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, every family has weird dynamics too, where, I mean, there's a whole other family in Weyburn that my kids have. So it's like,
Well, and it's also, it's dependent, like how a stepmom relates to her children, or even a stepdad. It's dependent on the other biological parent that isn't in the relationship with them.
Right.
It's dependent on that too. There's a number of things. A lot of people get dissed because they don't well, you don't know. You haven't had kids of your own. Well, do you have fucking common sense? There's this seeming hierarchy of okay, well, this is what I would do, and I mean, for myself, yeah, at times you kind of become emotionally invested in the outcome of a dilemma, and then I think for myself, I've really had to fight to just be like, oh, I'm sorry, that really sucks. You know, like, could you do this? Or like, what if you did this? Or, you know, and not really just attach yourself to an outcome because it's easier because for myself. And the other thing too, like when you don't have any specific biological ties to a minor, sometimes, or even be in a relationship where a guy, you know, has had kids, or a girl, even for whatever reason, there's not as many stepfather books as there are stepmother books. But it just seems like for a woman to be in that situation, it's a little bit more complicated. And sometimes it seems, anecdotally, of course, there's not a lot of studies that have been done about this whole thing, but it just seems like stepmoms get a bad rap in a way, and it's hard.
I think, and Stephanie points this out quite a bit when we see it in pop culture, like stepmoms in pop culture are the evil stepmom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what people think of
Totally.
when they think of stepmoms.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cinderella.
Yeah, that's right. Like despite the fact
Snow
that
White.
they're relied on and, you know, provide an entire segment of the family's situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a total trope. It's a total trope that you see in every show. The stepmom is always the stupid person or the super huge bitch that's stealing the dad away.
Right.
It's just like, oh, you guys.
Here's the thing. You're in your, whatever, I'm just going to use the stereotypes here, so Paul, you're in your 20s, nobody has kids, you know, you date people, whatever, you know, and things are already hard, okay? Relationships are already hard. Now, throw kids into the mix that aren't yours or that aren't one of the people's, and things are just like, I mean, even a couple, okay, that goes through and has kids, it's both of your biological child, okay?
Yeah.
Having a kid still throws a monkey wrench in that relationship,
Yeah.
and you both, and your parental roles are reasonably well, you know, laid out, and you kind of know how it's supposed to be or whatever, you know, even then that's challenging.
Yeah.
So then split that family up, throw in another adult human who, you know, who may have children of their own or not, you know, and it's
complicated.
It's fucking hard as fuck. And you just like, wow, I thought relationships were hard in my 20s when there were no children, no responsibilities, no nothing, and it's still hard. You know, that's what I'm saying.
And my situation is pretty amicable, and the kids are awesome, and it's still a shit show sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
the people.
So glad to hear other people say this. Like, I can't even tell you.
And the other thing too is what you were saying about, you know, having a relationship is hard enough as it is, but then having a relationship where there's kids from previous relationships, remarriages with kids have a like 73% chance of really ending.
Yeah.
Like the regular marriage,
Like
it's
I
like
said,
50%.
Even a regular marriage with your kid that's yours, both of yours, is still fucking hard. It's still but that kid makes your relationship more difficult.
Exactly.
Generally.
But that percentage goes down drastically after 3 years. Like after a certain period of time.
If you can make it through that first initial difficult
Is that
period.
so? How do you know all this shit, Angela?
I've read
You
a lot
smart
of books.
woman.
I've read a lot of books. I totally derailed the Rectable.
Hey,
But-
that's what this is for.
But it's just something that wells up inside of me every time this year. I just want to crawl into a hole
But it's timely.
or just go
Mother's
away
Day.
for like a month.
I used to hate Mother's Day for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's commercial and all that shit.
Well, no, because I was a dude and I was a single dad, and I thought, where the hell is my stuff? Because
you have a Father's Day.
my Facebook feed was all Happy Mother's Day to the mothers who have to be fathers too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I looked at it from the wrong aspect, and And then my partner, she never wanted to have kids. So then that's like a whole thing that society is like attaching itself to and celebrating, and that, oh, well, you people who just don't have kids, well, I mean, too bad.
Yeah. You don't know. You don't know how it is. There wasn't a child that exited your vagina. Like,
you know what? Everybody in the universe has unique experiences.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Nobody ever knows anyone else's experiences. And, even if, you go to a support group for whatever, single dads with children between the ages of 11 and 13 who have a, whatever, girlfriend who's a teacher group, then guess what? You're all not still coming from the same life experience.
Yeah,
it's just
right.
you don't, and you got to kind of try to have empathy for one another, but no, you cannot totally understand because everyone's experience is unique, and that's just how it goes.
that's right. That's absolutely right.
I mean, I go to my support group for single mom medical physicists from Calgary weekly. It's huge.
important.
It's,
No good
it's a big group, actually. We're a big group, but
That's an important
And,
group.
Who chairs the group?
well, me, because I can't shut up.
course.
But
How long does roll call take?
it's a big group. We're all still different, With a pension for expensive shoes.
I'm not a fan of the parent days. And there's like grandparent days, and there's like, I think it's kind of a weird thing to celebrate. Like, we're all kind of just doing our jobs, and
It's not bad to acknowledge. I mean, for
good to
example, this was
acknowledge.
Nursing Appreciation Week, and I think it's nice. I mean, all the docs bought pizza for the nurses on Wednesday, and I think it's nice, just like, hey, I really appreciate everything you do. I don't say it enough. You're awesome. I don't think it's bad. I mean, I think you can go overboard, and I don't think it should exclude people. I know it shouldn't be like, you're not a mother. You don't understand. It's not that. It's just meant to be like, I mean, honestly, definitely the hardest role I have in my life is mother, for sure. Being a parent is super, 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 super hard.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have parent days, make it gender neutral.
or is there something to the idea of we should maybe be more supportive of people in general every day?
Caregiver day. Yeah. No, yes, of course. But sometimes it's nice.
And
to-
I think that's a big part of it too, is that I think for me it's kind of a skeleton in my closet being a stepmom, and it has been, and I think it was better that I stopped defining myself exclusively as that and running in circles where I was only that. I think it helped to broaden my horizons and communicate with other people, and then it was not as big of a deal.
Right.
Then I was kind of liberated from the baggage of being a step parent. And then I could just, it helped me, I think, with my relationship with my stepkids and my husband too. It was helpful if I was able to have other hobbies that
a
were
different
rewarding.
identity.
Yeah. And I think that's the case with anything. Like when you identify exclusively as a mother, I think that's problematic. If you
Right. Like, your identity shouldn't necessarily be wrapped up in this one thing.
no,
Well, I think the same thing happens if you're in a long-term relationship and then that ends. You identified yourself as half of this couple. Like that's who
Absolutely.
we,
Yep.
And then it's like, who am I anymore? Like if I'm not
yeah,
part of this duo. I don't know.
exactly.
I think a lot of people, I mean, maybe I'm just coming up with this out of nowhere, but I think that a lot of people that I've known have experienced that to some degree when they've divorced or had kids. They really attach themselves to, like, I'm a parent and now I'm a husband or a wife and a mother or a father. These are the things that I am, and then they grow dissatisfied with that. And, your job isn't satisfying. And the fact that you're only a father or only a mother isn't satisfying. So then you got to find something else to identify with. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And if the pendulum is swinging all the way to one side, I mean, eventually it's gonna, start swinging back. Like, balance is hard to find at the best of times, and maybe you have it for 2 seconds and then you lose it again. But I don't know. I think, Don, I even before I was a stepmom, it was frustrating to see people identifying themselves exclusively as a mom and adding it to other words like mompreneur or mommy blogging or anything like that, like a mommy fitness, fit mommy. Just like it doesn't have to be the be all and the end all. I mean, like, I think I'm a little bit cynical when it comes to parenting because, yeah, I love my child, but I can't be around my child all the time. And
did you find this when your daughter was born? Like, it's so overwhelming taking care of a newborn that you do kind of lose your. Like, I felt like I wasn't myself for like a year or two. Like it's so
definitely.
And finally, when you kind of start clawing back. I don't know if you found this when your kids were first born. Like, it's just, for me anyways, it was just like all I am is like a milk machine. And like I'm just constantly in contact with this thing who won't, and my whole life is, revolves around when he sleeps and when he eats and when he poops and I have like, it's just.
I think I'm still kind of letting go of that. In some
I
ways.
hated that. I didn't want that identity.
Yeah.
I wanted me back. Like,
yeah. And I think, if you're even remotely introverted or even extroverted, I don't think it necessarily matters that much, but it's a big change. And for the people that co-sleep, I don't think that that's tenable for myself to be with that little person all the time. Like, I
did that, but that's so that I could sleep at all. So anyways.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It was the opposite, so I could sleep at all.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to do what works for you.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's if you're just relying exclusively on that one role to be rewarding and to give you any kind of
so true
joy
with
in
everything.
life.
Like people, like whatever, people are single or looking for someone to be with. Because that person will make them whole, like as if someone else can make you
Right.
give you an identity, right? If you're not enough by yourself, then somebody else is going to bring, and that's not true, right?
No.
Or people go after a certain career and you go and finally you achieve it. Oh, great. But it can be like, meanwhile, everyone you work with goes home to their families in the evenings and they don't eat and you're just alone, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
You can't wrap your whole identity up in a goal or anything else other than yourself. You can only, I don't know.
Can some people do that though?
Some people can. I think.
Is that almost not for everybody?
One could do such a thing. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure it's the path to satisfaction and to
what if it is for one
contentment,
person?
To contentment. Well, that's
What
fine.
is identity?
I think everybody has a different experience, as you said earlier, right? So I think it's different for everybody.
Well, and I think some people can maybe have slightly more. I don't know if obsessive is they're better able to focus on one aspect maybe, and they don't tire of one or feel consumed by one particular area, whether it's their job or their business or whatever. Maybe it's easier.
What I'm getting at, I think, I just took a few months ago, I took this meditation course and it kind of talked somewhat about some Buddhist philosophy. And I think what I'm talking about is what Buddhists call the wanting mind, meaning that something else, that other thing is the reason I'm not happy now is because I don't have that other thing, whatever that other thing may be.
Right.
A child, a relationship, an ice cream cone, that pair of shoes, whatever, drugs, whatever. And in the philosophy in Buddhism is that stuff cannot, because you are always searching for it. When you get it, you're just searching for more. You're always wanting more.
Yeah.
And the philosophy is to learn to be content with what you have, which is not to say you accept everything in life and you never fight for anything, but things are as they are and you have to learn how to live within that.
Yeah, isn't it something
Truth.
like the root of suffering is desire or something?
Exactly.
So
Right.
like wanting stuff or wanting
or the not wanting mind, right? Like
Right.
things will be better once I'm not living in this house, or things will be better
Right.
once this is not the case, But it's just not. It's not. Anyways,
That's kind of a Western luxury, though, I think, but to feel that way.
Buddhism is not. Western.
No, I mean that. I mean that philosophy. I mean that philosophy of like wanting.
Yeah.
Because if I'm poor as fuck and I have no house, I think a house would make me happy. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
First of all, that's not, I mean, hell, there's lots of poor people here in the West. I mean, but,
yeah, not to the same degree.
And of course, there are lots of studies that show that it is so incredibly stressful to be poor. So money cannot bring you happiness, but you need to be above a certain threshold for lack of resources not to bring you a lot of stress. So it's not to say that external things can't cause you stress. Of course, things are always, and some things are in your control, some things aren't. But to constantly be striving, you'll just find, I don't know, now I catch myself doing it. Like, okay, I just really need to I need to I don't know. I need an ice cream cone. I need to go to the Milky Way. I just get it in my head. And for some reason, I just got it in my head until I finally go and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I was good. I don't, but it's, did I need it?
I think there are elements of this. So that's a very small example, right? I think when I'm talking about basic human needs, if you have a desire for more basic human needs, I don't think there's anything wanting about that, right?
No, absolutely. I agree. Basic human needs are not including that in I don't think Buddhists do either.
Well, that's buy you happiness, but it sure rents off unhappiness.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I think that kind of philosophy is almost playing into that whole idea that we need to have less materialism, which I get, but at the same time, there's people who have no materialism, and then right. I don't know, so.
They don't even have their basic needs met. Exactly.
And that's the kind of stuff that they used to do to squash revolutions by giving them those kind of religious philosophies.
Wasn't there was something I read a while back about the Hindu religion and the idea of karmic balance almost reinstated a kind of a caste system because people were supposed to be happy with their lot in life, and if you were content with where you are, then you would be reincarnated differently.
That's where that philosophy is dangerous for me. That's just
it. It's your role in life is you're supposed to do your role.
Right.
If you do it properly, you will go up the ladder the next life.
Right.
Okay, so just to be clear, the whatever formulation of Buddhist philosophy that I'm referring to here is not supernatural in basis at all. Right. So just to be, I wouldn't really call it religious. I would call it more philosophical. But and I don't know, the teachings that I was hearing was that no, it doesn't mean that you don't fight for things that you want, or that it just means that you don't let your mind drag you around by the nose and just be miserable all the time because you're always focusing on the things you need or things you don't have or whatever, or the things that you don't want that you do have in your life. But instead you focus on just seeing things for how they are, not getting too caught up in what could be or what has happened. And then, yes, moving forward and definitely fight. There's nothing, there's nothing that says you can't, protest or that you can't.
Yeah. There's kind of a counter philosophy in social work, in the anti-oppressive field, about the righteous indignation philosophy. And it's more about actually using your anger and your frustration rather than being content.
Right.
It's actually about discontent. And that's
but it's not about wallowing. Right? It's not about it's about action. It's about, you can't just sit there and ruminate.
But it is aggressive and it is violent, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's definitely not Buddhist, but anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Right. There's an opposite of that.
I'm not a Buddhist. I just
I guess I'm not saying this to stir too many feathers or anything, but it's just more. I know within our own context we can think like that. I guess I'm always thinking from other contexts, and it's just like from a context of privilege we can think like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, sorry to interrupt, but I just think of my own situation where all my needs are met, and yet there is still a sense of suffering in some ways.
Yeah.
That probably aren't necessary. I probably don't have to be suffering. If I could.
Shitty things can also happen to people who are privileged. I mean,
the
richest person in the universe can get a incurable form of cancer, and
Yeah, but they can also afford a really good doctor to deal with them. So
yeah,
there are many forms of cancer doesn't matter how good your doctor is,
sure.
You're fucked.
But you can get better care than
but what I'm saying though is in terms of your mental well-being, you're going to be in a much better place if you're not ruminating on crappy things in the past and worrying about crappy things in the future and just trying to. I mean, doesn't mean you don't acknowledge that it's not that it's shitty to have cancer. It is shitty. It's just that it's. I I don't know. You can't if you focus on it too much, and if you just all you do is think about it, I think it just feeds misery.
I do understand, because I mean I've studied all this stuff in school and whatever, but and I have followed that myself. I guess I always, when I hear these kind of philosophies, I always get a little bit touchy, because I feel like this is what prevents social change, is those kind of philosophies.
Maybe, because,
right?
and I've thought about this before, like, if I had thought like this, like, oh, I just need to learn to accept my situation, I might still be in my really bad relationship, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There is something to say,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But I do get it. Like, I do see the value in the idea of like there are certain things obviously within life that are better to let go of and better not to ruminate in, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I think there is still a certain amount of discontent I should feel so that I can change things.
I agree with you.
Yep.
And I think that's maybe the happy medium there somewhere.
For some reason, I mean, maybe it's not connected, but it makes me think of I watched a little bit of a documentary on minimalism. And living in a
was it like not much of a documentary, or you watched, or you only watched a part of it?
It wasn't much of a documentary, and then I only watched a little bit of it.
It was
anyway.
a minimalist documentary.
About 5 minutes long. Well played, sir. Well played.
And really, I only
Yeah.
watched about a minute of the 5 minutes. So, but they were a bunch of they were a couple rich guys being in this documentary, but then they took this minimalist view to life, and they gave away a bunch of their stuff and lived in like these little apartments and started doing tours preaching the idea of minimalism. And it just seemed like, okay, so you were rich to start off with.
Yeah.
Like, you're like in this privileged position where you can just quit your job and go tour
They were
the
able
world.
to basically choose to where they wanted to drop their materialism down to.
Yeah, that's right. They
Obviously didn't have kids.
obviously did not
Young
have kids. That's
Yeah.
right.
Come on.
Minimalist, you're allowed one toy. The hell I am.
Well, I always think of like this idea of like, working yourself out of poverty and then like you think about it, and if you're kind of like similar to that situation, if I'm in this other country where there's no jobs and there's no clean water and shelter's really difficult and things and I have to go work at this factory for 14 hours a day just to have barely enough to survive. There's no working out of that, right? There's no you are forced to be minimalist beyond what you should be, right? Like, and it's like, that's the reality for so many people.
Definitely.
Like way more than people would like to think about every day. But so I don't know. I want to be pissed off about that daily. I really do. In some way, because that's the only way I change it, I think. But I don't know.
I think that's fair.
The key, right? You don't want to be pissed off just for the sake of being pissed off and keeping that in yourself, but as a motivator for action, which is very positive, right?
Well, and the unfortunate part is that I'm sure I'm the minority of people. Like, I'm sure that we probably think about these things sometimes and reflect on them, but I don't think that's very widespread, right? Like, I think the average person doesn't give a shit, doesn't think about it. They're just worried about their
I don't think there's a lot of people that are self-aware enough to be able to comment even remotely philosophically on that topic.
Well, right. Like, they're worried about oh shit, I had somebody cut me off today and I gave them the finger, and then oh man, I got my meal and it wasn't where I wanted it to be. Yeah. Oh, actually, so my wife talked about this person she works with complaining about the fact they can't afford a house and they're like a single person with living with their parents, and I'm just like shut up. Who cares? That's not a problem. It's just a thing, I don't know. Anyway.
No, I think that's valid. But, and also what Lisa was saying before too, I mean, we come from a lot of different backgrounds, and I have an axe to grind about Mother's Day, but I think we all have different experiences. We all have to recognize that we each have our own experiences and be sympathetic to each other and be respectful of each other.
But not of that fucker living with their parents who wants their own place. Fuck them. Right? Fucking have no sympathy for them.
I actually don't have.
You're
any
really
sympathy.
Mad, dude.
I don't really have any sympathy for that situation, because it's just honestly, it's I wish
I could afford to buy a house too, though.
That's not a real problem.
I really do. I don't not depressed about it.
I have a house, and I constantly find myself wishing that we didn't.
Really?
Having an apartment or having a townhouse where I didn't have to pay, I didn't have to take care of it.
You don't have to shovel
sweet.
or mow.
That is why I moved into an apartment, actually.
Yeah.
Just cross that section off the chore list.
Sorry, what I mean is the ownership part.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, when I'm old and can't work anymore, it will be nice to have a place that is paid for. So,
except for taxes.
Maybe has some equity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe where I can draw my line then for all this stuff is that I think when there's reaches a certain point of privilege where my focus has to change. I guess maybe.
Yeah.
And then there's people who like should be going after their needs at all costs, really. So and we should be helping them, but
I'm just, it doesn't matter where you are in life or where you are in society. If you are being crushed by your depression or your ruminations or your worries, you're not helping yourself.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's you absolutely you have to be able to focus it into something productive or that would be the way to go. And I think there's something wrong with that, but it is very possible to just be railroaded by your ruminations and your feelings, and that's what you want to avoid.
Yeah. You can't actually lift yourself up by your bootstraps, but you can't not do
really
anything.
Can't if you're depressed.
Yeah, you really can't. You really can't if you're depressed or stuck in a mode of thinking that leaves you not even trying, I guess.
Well, and it's like I suffer from depression and anxiety, so I know exactly what that feels like. It's like it's hard because it's kind of at the same time I have this mindset like, holy shit, like why do I feel like this? But like there's people who have like fuck all who don't. Yeah. And it's not as simple as just I have a mental health issue. Like I know a lot of us do, but I think there is something societally, something that is revealing about our society when that's the case, right?
Yes.
When you can have everything and still be like stressed out of your fucking mind.
Still feel it, yes.
Yeah.
I think honestly the reason we have so much, we're just seeing more and more depression. I think part of it is like the unnatural nature of our society. Like, I mean, human beings evolved to live in small groups of whatever it is, 20 to 200 people, all of whom who knew each other, supported each other. You have a social structure. You have
that part
physical contact. You have a variety of things that you do. You get exercise, et cetera, right? Like, so there's a lot of things, you're outdoors a lot. There's a lot of things that, in our society that, are detrimental to mental health.
So maybe our minimalism is the answer then. Yeah, maybe we're...
Well, no, not mental, but I mean, like even
in some ways, I think.
No, in some ways though, I agree.
Because there was some clickbait saying that we have less free time than we did in the Middle Ages.
We do.
That's right.
I took that in anthropology. There was this whole thing about this one tribe in Africa, and they said that they're like free time. They had only worked like 18 hours a week or something like that.
Yeah.
But Jesus, what would I do if I had all that free time?
You do podcasts.
More podcasts.
But
you love.
But you do. I mean,
you'd record an
you
episode
do
a
this.
week.
You wouldn't be recording it, but you'd shoot the shit with your friends.
Yeah.
Totally. Whatever. I mean, you look at ancient art. They're fabricating individual beads out of freaking stones and boring holes out of them and painting. I mean, like, shit. They did stuff. They just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I talked to one of the guys at work. I talked to him about like this mentality that we always have to be productive. Like if we're not doing a thing, then we feel like we're not fulfilled or
like if
successful.
you're not on a podcast and making a blanket simultaneously, go fuck yourself.
That's right.
Sorry.
You need to always be
just
productive.
leave. I should just leave.
Do we just need to make this the Lisa show?
For the listeners, I am crocheting a blanket right now.
Yeah.
That's why we need a live stream so they can watch you do it. And then...
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
That might be the key to more subscribers.
No.
Live blanket making.
Crocheting a blanket with Lisa.
Because there's no crochet anywhere on the internet.
Yeah, there's not like
Is there a
several web
YouTube
pages.
though? Is there a crochet
Probably.
YouTube?
There is.
There's got to be a live stream.
There have got to be tens of thousands of
Do you want to
crochet
go
videos.
down that rabbit hole, Corey?
No.
It will
combination
bore
of-
you. Let's
I
be
went
honest.
down there for you already.
Crochet storm.
It's the combination of Lisa's crocheting with her biting commentary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's like peanut butter and chocolate.
Her hooks are sharp.
Whoa. That works.
That's fucking brilliant.
Can I just
clap
say
for
to
myself.
the YouTube commentators who are going to say that I always interrupt people and never give anyone a word in edgewise?
Don't give
I
them the
know,
satisfaction.
you're right. I'm sorry. No, that's
give them
true.
the satisfaction.
I'm the worst interrupter.
I think anyone who starts their comment though with that woman needs to just shut up.
Stop.
Yeah.
They just need to
Instantly.
stop.
Yeah.
At least
No, they said that girl.
Oh, sorry, that girl.
They
Which is
minimized
a little
her.
offensive because I'm a 35-year-old woman.
Yeah.
However, I'm a 35-year-old woman being called a girl, so that's okay.
Okay.
It's like getting ID'd at the liquor store.
Fuck, that happened to me in Vegas. It was amazing.
Okay, let's take a break.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, we'll close out this segment of the Rectable. So for everything else, you can check out the show notes at brainstormpodcast.com or our website, brainstormblog.net. Thank you to all our financial supporters. Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin doesn't suck that much, Magnus, Michael. Oh, that's not supposed to say Michael. That's supposed to say a bunch of small furry animals hiding in a cave or something like that.
In a coat, isn't it?
No, it's in a cave. I'm sure it's in a cave.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It seems a lot less funny, though.
But it was like several small. The point is that it's long, and it's several small animals hiding in a cave or something. Anyway, sorry, Michael, I didn't get to it this time around. Positively Skeptical and Rob. And if you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. You can also support us by donating to our GoFundMe for our conference. That link is in the show notes. Or you can buy stuff at our TeePublic store, which is also, the link is in the show notes. You can join us every second week when we broadcast live on brainstormradio.net. Our next show is on May 27th, and our guest will be, or 25th. God, my dates are bad. Our guest will be Bob Nygaard, the psychic investigator.
Oh, no.
He actively investigates psychics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You thought he does investigations with psychic powers.
Yeah.
I would not promote somebody like that.
You know what? I would grill a psychic investigator.
That might be an all right episode, actually. I want to thank Ian again for joining us. You can find more of his stuff at ianharriscomedian.com. Thanks to Dave for cool new intro music.
Word.
Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing the new voiceover for the intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Kapper Murdoch. I didn't cue that outro music.
Whoops.
You didn't.
There we go. Thanks to Alex Kapper Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, or follow us on Twitter. Share the show and spread the word. For live listeners, stick around for the after show. You can go to brainstormafterhours.com and listen to the bonus content before it goes patron only. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.